Jeremy Lin was practically unknown to most basketball fans until early February of 2012. Despite being a talented player with a solid collegiate career at Harvard, he had gone undrafted in the NBA and bounced among rosters without finding a niche. Few could have anticipated that, during that same month, he would become the center of attention in one of the world's largest metropolises, with his face gracing the covers of newspapers and magazines. This was the birth of Linsanity, a genuine cultural and sporting phenomenon that left its mark on the history of the New York Knicks, the NBA, and even global entertainment. Below, we dive deep into this startling journey, from Jeremy Lin's beginnings to the powerful impact his brief yet electrifying rise produced. Jeremy Shu Hao Lin was born on August 23, 1988, in Torrance, California, to Taiwanese parents who had immigrated to the United States in the 1970s. From an early age, Lin loved basketball but constantly faced doubts about his physique, his ethnicity, and his true potential in a sport often dominated by African American and historically more prominent white athletes. In high school, Jeremy starred at Palo Alto High, where he guided his team to a state championship upset against a heavily favored opponent. Yet he received no athletic scholarship offers from major basketball universities, typical for players pursuing top-tier NCAA visibility. Eventually, he ended up at Harvard, an institution of great academic prestige but minimal basketball tradition. At Harvard, Jeremy Lin showed off impressive technique and a high basketball IQ. He led the team to solid seasons and drew some attention from scouts, but the Ivy League doesn't typically churn out many NBA-caliber prospects. When he entered the 2010 NBA draft, no team selected him. Even so, he managed to sign as an undrafted free agent with the Golden State Warriors, his hometown franchise, but saw little action during his rookie season, 2010 to 2011. He spent time in the D-League, the developmental league, before being cut. He briefly landed with the Houston Rockets but was waived again before the start of the 2011 to 2012 season. To many observers, Lin was a long shot at best. His fortunes began to change when the New York Knicks signed him, almost unnoticed, to plug some holes in their roster. The franchise was struggling badly. Despite marquee players like Carmelo Anthony and Amare Stoudemire, the team lacked cohesion and was piling up losses. Mike D'Antoni, the head coach at the time, faced constant pressure from an exacting New York press and fan base. Lin arrived with no guarantee that he would even keep his spot on the team. In fact, reports indicate that, in the early days, he didn't even have a proper apartment, sleeping on a brother's couch in the area. Then came February 4, 2012, at Madison Square Garden, the night everything changed. The Knicks were playing against the New Jersey Nets, now the Brooklyn Nets, during a disheartening stretch of defeats. D'Antoni, out of options and with multiple players sidelined, decided to give Jeremy Lin some extended court time. Lin surpassed all expectations that evening, racking up 25 points, 7 assists, and leading a comeback that electrified the crowd. New York, used to big-name stars but also repeated failures, witnessed an unknown seize the spotlight. People started asking, "Who is this guy?" It was only the beginning. In the following game against the Utah Jazz, Lin received his first start. With both Carmelo Anthony and Stoudemire unavailable, he remained unflappable under pressure, finishing with 28 points and 8 assists. The Knicks won again. The city took further notice. Some media outlets wondered if Jeremy Lin was just a flash in the pan. But that February week was only heating up. In the days that followed, the Knicks went on a winning streak, fueled by Lin's standout performances. Against the Washington Wizards, he recorded a double-double. Yet the definitive landmark arrived on February 10th, when New York faced Kobe Bryant's Los Angeles Lakers at the hallowed Madison Square Garden. Jeremy Lin not only led the Knicks to another victory, but also dropped a stunning 38 points, overshadowing Kobe in one of the NBA's most iconic arenas. The crowd went wild, and media outlets proclaimed the Linsanity had begun. With sensational drives, precise passes, clutch scoring, and a previously unseen poise, Lin became the NBA's biggest story. In a matter of days, social media was ablaze with terms like "Linning" and pun-filled headlines saturated local and national news. The New York Post, famous for its flashy covers, ran with "Lin Credible" and "Just Lin Time." Knicks jerseys emblazoned with Lin sold out in a matter of hours. Broadcast ratings for Knicks games soared, not just in the U.S. but also in Asian countries, where Lin was embraced as a cultural hero. After all, Asian American players were, and still are, a rarity in the NBA. Beyond the stats, Jeremy Lin had a compelling story. He was the unassuming Harvard graduate with a reserved, grateful demeanor, lacking the flashy bravado or tattoos common among some NBA stars. He won over everyone, the media yearning for a feel-good underdog tale, teammates who recognized his diligence, and fans who identified with his perseverance. Lin's faith also drew comparisons to Tim Tebow in the NFL, another openly devout Christian athlete who captured headlines. All these elements meshed to produce a collective fascination not seen in sports since tales like Kurt Warner's NFL breakthrough or collegiate athletes ascending out of nowhere. Linsanity's biggest highlights came through Lin's timely heroic. In Toronto, facing the Raptors, he nailed a last-second three-pointer to seal the victory. Cameras caught the exact moment he released the shot, calm, collected, and then how he erupted with emotion as the ball found its mark. His teammates crowded around in celebration, an image replayed endlessly on sports shows and widely cited as one of the season's defining moments. It was proof that this wasn't just a decent string of games, there was something magical going on. For a moment, Mike D'Antoni appeared vindicated, having stumbled upon, almost by happenstance, a solution to his team's point guard crisis. Carmelo Anthony's injury, initially a problem, gave Lin extra responsibility and a path to minute. Amare Stoudemire was coping with personal and physical issues, creating even more space for Lin to operate. With little competition at point guard, Jeremy seized the opportunity. New York, starved for a hero since the Patrick Ewing era, found a reason to hope. Even the Madison Square Garden celebrities, like Spike Lee, famous director and rabid Knicks fan, began sporting gear saluting the new star. Yet, nothing lasts forever. As the weeks wore on, opponents studied Lin's game, focusing on stopping his drives, pushing him to dribble left, and limiting his ability to run pick-and-roll sets. Moreover, Carmelo Anthony returned to the lineup, naturally eager to assume a dominant offensive role, leading to debates about whether he and Lin would mesh well on the court. Stoudemire also came back, and D'Antoni had to juggle the lineup. Lin's performance grew more erratic, teams keyed in on him more. The Knicks' winning surge began to fizzle, although fans clung to hope that any given night could witness another Lin masterpiece. Then, in mid-March, a harsh setback arrived. Lin suffered a knee injury that required surgery, ending his regular season. The Knicks moved on without their unexpected savior in the crucial stretch. The feverish excitement began cooling, and the Linsanity wave, at least in its meteoric form, was over. When the season concluded, Jeremy Lin became a restricted free agent. The Houston Rockets, ironically, the team that had cut him earlier, offered a hefty contract. To the surprise of many, the Knicks chose not to match it, and Lin headed off to Houston, ending his fairy tale chapter in New York. The fallout was significant. Fans questioned the Knicks' decision to let go of the year's biggest phenomenon. Analysts cited luxury tax concerns and salary cap constraints. Rumors circulated that Carmelo Anthony objected to Lin's sudden stardom and the large salary he would command, given that no one had heard of him just months prior. Whatever the reasons, Jeremy Lin's time in the Big Apple had ended. In Houston, Lin showcased flashes of brilliance but shared the backcourt with James Harden, newly acquired from the Oklahoma City Thunder. The initial madness of Linsanity never repeated. He went on to play for the Los Angeles Lakers, Charlotte Hornets, Brooklyn Nets, and Atlanta Hawks, solid but never recapturing that electrifying peak. In 2019, as a Toronto Raptors reserve, Lin finally won an NBA championship, achieving the league's ultimate goal even if he was no longer in the spotlight. Nonetheless, Lin's impact transcends what's on the stat sheets. In that short period of Linsanity, he epitomized how a compelling narrative can reshape a player's image. He also showcased how the NBA, in the social media era, can amplify an uplifting storyline to global proportion. On top of that, Lin represented a breakthrough for Asian American athletes. Previously, only Yao Ming, ethnically Chinese, not American, had garnered such widespread attention. Lin's rise served as an inspiration to young Asian athletes worldwide, proving that racial stereotypes could be broken down. That deeper issue of identity and representation was huge. Jeremy Lin has often spoken of the bias he encountered in his youth and, later, at the college and professional levels. Journalists sometimes ran insensitive or racially charged headlines during his breakout run. By calmly overcoming each obstacle, Lin won over countless fans. The Linsanity phenomenon, in part, forced the NBA and media to reflect more on embracing cultural diversity. Purely in basketball terms, those February 2012 numbers were staggering: 25 points versus the Nets, 28 versus the Jazz, a double-double versus the Wizards, 38 against the Lakers, and a clutch game winner in Toronto. The Knicks, seemingly headed for a losing season, revived their playoff hopes thanks to Lin's confidence and the fervent support of a starved fan base. It wasn't just the stats, but the drama. Magical nights in Madison Square Garden, come-from-behind victories, amazing shots in the final seconds, Lin's happy yet humble demeanor, and post-game interviews that lit up social media. For many, it was an enchanting spectacle revealing the heart and soul of basketball. Even today, Knicks fans often reminisce fondly about that period. Although it didn't yield a championship or bring a lasting transformation to the franchise, it delivered a breath of fresh air. Linsanity was a riveting reminder that, in the NBA, the unexpected is always waiting to happen. Whenever talk turns to underdogs or out-of-nowhere heroes, Jeremy Lin is among the first names mentioned. He's also become a case study for executives, marketers, and journalists, demonstrating how a strong storyline, backed by real performances, can spark a sports phenomenon. Over the years, Jeremy Lin's career has taken many paths, but always overshadowed by the widespread admiration he earned in those brilliant days in New York. Many Asian fans have kept supporting him wherever he played, and the NBA has capitalized on heightened attention from Taiwan, China, Singapore, and beyond. In some ways, Lin became a cultural ambassador and an inspiration for many. You could say Linsanity was short-lived, but it was undeniably intense. In a league sometimes bogged down by predictable superstars, massive contracts, and familiar names, watching a benchwarmer with no hype suddenly dominate important games at Madison Square Garden was a breath of fresh air, a break in the monotony, a reminder that incredible stories can still unfold out of nowhere. For fans, even non-Knicks supporters, it was a glimpse of the NBA's purest essence, passion, perseverance, and the thrill that someone who was nobody can rise to the top. Finally, the term Linsanity became part of the sports lexicon and pop culture. It resurfaces whenever a player rockets from obscurity to stardom. Documentaries, highlight reels, and NBA retrospectives frequently recall Jeremy Lin's contributions in February of 2012, as few moments in recent league history have combined so many fairy tale elements and stirred so many hearts in such a short time. Ultimately, Jeremy Lin and the Linsanity phenomenon stand for far more than a streak of games. It's a powerful emblem of representation, the synergy between media and social platforms, and the unending capacity of basketball to weave magical narrative. Those who lived through every point, every basket, every headline, still marvel at having witnessed something so unique, almost mythical. For newcomers, merely watch the highlights to see why, even years later, the Hoops community harbors a special reverence for that once unknown point guard who suddenly reigned as the main attraction in the planet's biggest city. This is Jeremy Lin's enduring legacy, reminding us that dreams, no matter how unlikely, can indeed come true and enchant the entire world.